As the smoke and debris cleared from the devastating first engagement, the surviving alien commanders began to understand the magnitude of their mistake. What they had witnessed was not humanity's desperate last stand, but merely the opening movement of a carefully orchestrated demonstration. The artificial asteroids that had decimated their fleet were not humanity's greatest weapons, but simply the most convenient ones. Admiral Rick Hayes arrived at the battlefield aboard the massive dreadnought UCS Vengeance, a vessel that dwarfed even the largest alien capital ships. The Vengeance was over 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapon systems that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Its hull was composed of materials that had been forged in the hearts of dying stars, and its power core drew energy from controlled singularities that humanity had learned to create and contain. Commander. Zalthok stared at the approaching human vessel through the cracked viewport of his flagship. The Eternal Dominion was barely functional, its crew reduced to a fraction of its original numbers, but his warrior's instincts still recognized the predator approaching them. The human dreadnought moved with a grace that defied its enormous size, its engines producing thrust, patterns that suggested technology far beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Terran Defense Force," the human's voice echoed across all communication frequencies. "You have made a critical error in judgment. You assumed we were weak because we remained isolated. You believed our warnings came from fear. The truth is quite different." Beside Admiral Hayes on the bridge of the Vengeance stood Dr. Rachel Adams, Earth's leading expert on alien biology and technology. For decades, she had studied every species in the galaxy, not for peaceful scientific purposes, but to identify weaknesses that could be exploited in exactly this type of conflict. Her research had led to the development of weapons specifically designed to be effective against each alien species' unique physiology. "Every year you left us alone," Hayes continued, "we grew stronger. Every attempt at peaceful contact was an opportunity to study your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We have been preparing for this day since first contact 3 centuries ago." The alien fleet watched in growing horror as more human vessels emerged from concealment throughout the Sol system. These were not the destroyers and cruisers that had already shocked them with their capabilities. These were the heavy units of the Terran Defense Force, ships that had been hidden so well that their very existence had been kept secret from the galaxy. Jupiter's moon Europa cracked open like an egg, revealing vast shipyards that had been built beneath kilometers of ice over the past 2 centuries. Massive construction bays disgorged vessels that seemed to bend the laws of physics, their hulls incorporating technology that made them appear to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Colonel Andy Martinez oversaw the emergence of humanity's greatest secret from his command post deep within Europa's core. "Deploy the Ghost Fleet," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of 3 centuries of preparation. Lieutenant Sophia Cruz watched her instruments as hundreds of automated warships rose from their hidden berths. Each vessel of the Ghost Fleet was controlled by artificial intelligence that could think and adapt faster than any biological mind. They required no crews, felt no fear, and could execute maneuvers that would kill organic pilots. "Target acquisition complete," she reported. Beginning termination protocols. The Ghost Fleet spread out across the solar system with inhuman precision, their movements coordinated by quantum communication networks that operated faster than light itself. Each ship was a masterpiece of automated warfare, capable of independent action while remaining part of a collective consciousness that spanned the entire fleet. Saturn's rings began to move, revealing themselves to be an elaborate camouflage for the largest defensive installation ever constructed. What had appeared to be natural ice and rock particles were actually billions of microscopic weapon platforms, each one capable of independent target acquisition and engagement. The entire ring system was a distributed weapon of planetary scale, controlled by quantum computers hidden within the planet's core. Admiral Velkarn of the Hegemony transmitted a desperate message to his remaining ships. "Fall back to minimum safe distance. We are dealing with technology that should not exist. How did they advance so far without our knowledge?" Dr. Adams answered his question through an open communication channel. "We studied you," she said simply. "Every diplomatic contact, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange was an intelligence-gathering operation. We learned your languages, your customs, your technology, and most importantly, your weaknesses." The human scientist activated a holographic display that showed detailed biological and technological profiles of every species in the alien fleet. Your species, Admiral Velkarn, are vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies that disrupt your nervous systems. The Krogar are susceptible to gravitational distortions that interfere with their balance organs. The Xerion collective consciousness can be disrupted by quantum interference patterns. Each revelation was demonstrated as specialized human weapons activated throughout the system. Ships designed specifically to target individual alien species began their approach, their exotic weaponry calibrated to exploit the exact weaknesses that Dr. Adams had spent decades cataloging. The scope of humanity's deception became clear as more hidden installations revealed themselves. Mars was not just a defensive platform but an entire world that had been converted into a fortress. Its core had been hollowed out and replaced with a massive reactor that could power weapons capable of sterilizing entire star systems. The planet's surface bristled with gun emplacements that could track and destroy targets across interplanetary distances. Venus, hidden behind its thick atmosphere, housed atmospheric processors that could manufacture exotic materials impossible to create anywhere else in the galaxy. Mercury had been converted into a massive solar collector and manufacturing facility, its proximity to the sun allowing for industrial processes that required stellar levels of energy. Even Earth's moon revealed its true nature as layer after layer of concealment fell away. The entire satellite was hollow, its interior converted into a command and control center that coordinated humanity's military forces across dozens of star systems. Hidden bases on the far side of the moon had been launching unmanned exploration and colonization missions for over a century, establishing human presence throughout the galaxy without alien knowledge. Admiral Hayes continued his broadcast to the remnants of the alien fleet. You see before you the result of 3 centuries of focused preparation. While you conquered primitive worlds and fought amongst yourselves, we built the most advanced military force this galaxy has ever seen. We could have expanded decades ago, could have conquered your worlds and enslaved your populations. We chose isolation instead. The truth of that statement became apparent as star charts appeared on alien communication screens, showing the true extent of human expansion. Colonies existed in over 50 star systems. Hidden bases monitored every major space lane, and automated defense networks protected approaches to Earth that the aliens had never even detected. Commander Zalthok finally found his voice, his warrior's pride forcing him to ask the question that burned in every alien mind. Why hide your strength? Why warn us away instead of conquering us? Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment before responding. Because we remember what we were before we reached the stars. We remember the wars, the destruction, the suffering that unlimited power can bring. We isolated ourselves not from fear of you, but from fear of what we might become if we unleashed our full capability on the galaxy. The human admiral's words carried a weight that chilled every alien who heard them. They began to understand that humanity's warning had not been a sign of weakness but an act of mercy. The isolated, primitive species they had come to subjugate was actually an apex predator that had voluntarily restrained itself to protect its potential prey. The demonstration was nearly complete, but Admiral Hayes had one final revelation to share. You will survive this encounter, he told the shattered alien fleet. A small number of you will be allowed to return to your worlds. You will carry with you proof of what you have seen here. You will warn the galaxy that humanity's isolation is ending. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with voices from dozens of alien species. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered on Zentari Prime to discuss the most frustrating problem they had faced in 300 years. At the center of the massive room stood a holographic display showing the spiral arm of their galaxy, with one small section marked in bright red. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire pointed his crystalline finger at the red zone. His voice carried the frustration that every council member felt. For 3 centuries we have received the same message from this region. The same simple words over and over, warning, Terran space, do not enter. This is your only notice. The other ambassadors nodded their various heads in agreement. The Krogar delegation growled low in their throats. The floating ethereal representatives pulsed with angry light. Even the peaceful Verdani showed signs of irritation with their leaf-like appendages rustling. Council leader Velton raised his forearms for silence. His species had ruled the hegemony for over 1,000 years and his word carried great weight. This human problem has gone on too long. Trade routes worth billions of credits are being disrupted. Mineral-rich worlds sit empty in their territory. We have been patient, but patience has limits. From the back of the chamber, a single voice spoke up. You should listen to the warning. All eyes turned to Commander Jake Morrison, the only human in the room. He stood alone at a small platform, looking tiny compared to the massive alien delegates around him. His brown hair was streaked with gray, and his blue eyes held a weariness that came from years of trying to keep peace. Ambassador Kethvar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Commander Morrison, your species controls barely 12 worlds. Your total population is less than 8 billion across all colonies. Our combined fleets number in the tens of thousands. What possible threat could you pose to us? Jake Morrison looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces staring at him. Some showed amusement, others showed contempt, but none showed the respect that 3 centuries of warnings should have earned. He knew what was coming next and felt a deep sadness settle in his chest. My people put up those warnings for a reason, Jake said quietly. We isolated ourselves to protect the galaxy, not because we feared it. You should listen to the warning. The chamber erupted in laughter. The sound was horrible, a mixture of roars, clicks, whistles, and electronic tones from dozens of different species. Commander Zalthok of the Krogar stood to his full height of nearly 3 meters. His scarred hide bore the marks of 100 battles, and his tusks gleamed in the chamber lights. Protect the galaxy, Zalthok snarled. From what? From humans who hide behind warning buoys like frightened children. My people have conquered 17 star systems. We fear nothing that breathes. Council Leader Velton called for order once again. The decision is clear. We will assemble a joint expeditionary force. Every major power will contribute ships and personnel. We will enter human space, investigate their true capabilities, and if necessary, bring them into compliance with galactic law. The vote was unanimous. Every delegation supported the motion except for Jake Morrison, whose single vote counted for nothing against the combined will of the galaxy. He activated his communication device and sent an encrypted message toward Sol System. The message was brief but carried enormous weight. They are coming. Prep Protocol 7. On Earth, in a deep bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Lisa Carter received Jake's message. The war room around her hummed with activity, as military personnel monitored situations across human space. The room was filled with screens showing star charts, fleet positions, and weapon status reports. Admiral Rick Hayes stood beside the president's chair, his weathered face grim as he read the message. His gray uniform bore the insignia of the Terra Defense Fleet, a position he had held for 15 years. How long do we have? President Carter asked without looking up from the reports on her desk. 3 weeks until they reach the outer system markers, Admiral Hayes replied. Maybe 4 if they take their time and scan everything along the way. President Carter stood and walked to the main display screen. It showed the Sol system in perfect detail, with every planet, moon, asteroid, and space station clearly marked. What the display did not show were the thousands of hidden installations, disguised weapon platforms, and concealed fleet bases that dotted the system. Send the activation codes to all stations, she ordered. Wake up the Ghost Fleet. Begin moving the asteroid platforms into position. Contact Mars Command and have them prep the surface batteries. Admiral Hayes nodded and began issuing orders to his staff. Around the room, dozens of officers began the careful process of activating humanity's true defense network. Systems that had been dormant for decades came online. Weapons that could crack planets began their power-up sequences. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres received their orders. On Mars, Colonel Pete Williams watched the red planet's surface transform before his eyes. What had appeared to be natural rock formations began to shift and change. Massive weapon emplacements rose from beneath the Martian soil, their barrels tracking toward space. The entire planet had been transformed into a fortress over the past 2 centuries, with every major geological feature hiding some form of defensive system. Lieutenant Amy Foster monitored the approaching alien fleet from her position in Mars Command. The enemy ships were still weeks away, but their course was clear. They would enter the system near Pluto and advance inward, expecting to find primitive human settlements and basic defensive satellites. Let them come, Colonel Williams said as he watched the weapon platforms complete their deployment. They want to see what humanity is really capable of. Time to show them. Back on Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council began assembling the largest military force in their recorded history. Over 2,000 ships from 17 different species would join the expedition. Battleships that had conquered entire worlds, carriers filled with fighter craft, and support vessels loaded with troops and supplies. Commander Zalthok was given command of the fleet, his flagship Eternal Dominion leading the massive armada. As the ships gathered in space above the Council world, no one questioned whether they would succeed. The only debate was how quickly humanity would surrender once they saw the size of the force arrayed against them. Jake Morrison watched the fleet preparations from his quarters on the diplomatic station. He had done everything possible to prevent this moment, but the Council's arrogance had made conflict inevitable. He sent one final message to Earth, then began packing his belongings. Soon he would return home to witness either humanity's greatest triumph or the end of everything he had worked to protect. The combined galactic fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of angry insects. Over 2,000 vessels stretched across space in a formation that had never known defeat. Battleships the size of cities drifted alongside sleek destroyers and massive carriers loaded with fighter craft. The sight was magnificent and terrifying, a display of power that had brought entire civilizations to their knees. Commander Zalthok stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Dominion and felt satisfaction course through his veins. His scarred hide bore witness to countless victories, and today would add another to his collection. The bridge crew around him worked with practiced efficiency, their various species united in the certainty of their superiority. "Begin scanning protocols," Zalthok ordered. "I want to know the location of every human ship, base, and defensive platform in this system." The sensor operator, a multi-eyed Zerion, bent over his instruments. His voice carried confusion as he reported his findings. "Sir, we are detecting minimal activity. A few automated warning buoys near Pluto broadcasting the same message. Some energy signatures from the inner planets, but nothing that suggests military installations." Zalthok frowned. He had expected to find orbital defense platforms, patrol fleets, and clear signs of military preparation. Instead, the outer system appeared almost empty. "Continue scanning. Advance the fleet toward the inner system. Maintain battle formation." The massive armada began moving deeper into human space, their sensors probing every asteroid and piece of space debris. The humans had to be hiding somewhere. No species could control 12 worlds without a significant military presence, yet the scanning results showed almost nothing. Admiral Velkarn of the Hegemony contacted Zalthok from his own command ship. "Commander, my science teams are detecting unusual energy readings from several of the planets. The power outputs are far higher than what a primitive civilization should possess." "Elaborate," Zalthok replied, his interest growing. "The planet they call Mars is showing energy signatures consistent with a major industrial world, but our long-range scans from outside the system suggested minimal development. Either our intelligence was wrong or the humans are using some form of concealment technology." Zalthok considered this information. Concealment technology was not unknown in the galaxy, but it required significant resources and technical knowledge. If the humans possessed such capabilities, they might be more advanced than the Council had assumed. On Mars, Colonel Pete Williams watched the alien fleets approach from the underground command center of Defense Station Alpha. The red planet's surface appeared normal to outside observers, but beneath the Martian soil lay the most sophisticated defensive network ever constructed. Railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed were hidden in artificial canyons. Missile batteries containing warheads that could crack moons were concealed beneath fake rock formations. "They are scanning everything," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the sensor station. "Their technology is impressive, but they cannot penetrate our stealth fields." Colonel Williams nodded. Humanity had spent 3 centuries developing technology specifically designed to fool alien sensors. Every major installation in the Sol system was hidden behind carefully crafted illusions that made weapon. Platforms appear to be asteroids and military. Bases look like natural geological. "Formations, let them scan," Williams said calmly. "They will see exactly what we want them to see. Nothing threatening. Nothing that suggests we pose any danger to their mighty fleet." In the asteroid belt, the alien ships passed within kilometers of humanity's most powerful weapons without detecting them. What appeared to be ordinary asteroids were actually massive mobile weapons platforms, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a capital ship. The artificial asteroids had been in position for over a century, their fusion reactors powered down to minimal levels to avoid detection. Captain Sam Russell commanded one of humanity's most advanced stealth destroyers, the USS Defiance. His ship shadowed the alien fleet from a distance that should have made detection inevitable, yet the enemy sensors passed over his vessel without reaction. The Defiance used technology that bent light and absorbed sensor beams, making it effectively invisible to conventional detection methods. "They have no idea we are here," reported Lieutenant Karen Price from the tactical station. "Human engineering at its finest." Captain Russell watched the alien formation on his main screen. The enemy ships moved with confidence, clearly believing they were dealing with a primitive opponent. "Maintain position. Continue monitoring their communications. When the time comes, we want to know their every move before they make it." The alien fleet continued its advance, passing the orbit of Mars without detecting the massive weapons installations hidden on the planet's surface. They moved past the asteroid belt, unaware that they were surrounded by enough firepower to reduce their entire armada to scrap metal. Their sensors detected no threats, no hidden bases, no sign that humanity possessed any military capability worth mentioning. Commander Zalthak grew increasingly frustrated as the hours passed. "Where are their defenses?" he demanded. "No species controls 12 worlds without significant military assets. They must be hiding somewhere." The Xerion sensor operator continued his scans, his multiple eyes focused on his instruments. "Sir, we are detecting some unusual gravitational anomalies near several of the gas giant moons. The readings are inconsistent with natural satellite formations." "Investigate," Zalthak ordered. "Deploy scout ships to examine those anomalies." A squadron of fast attack craft broke formation and headed toward Jupiter's moon system. Their sensors probed the space around the massive planet, searching for any sign of human military presence. What they found defied explanation. The gravitational readings suggested artificial structures of enormous size, yet their visual sensors showed only empty space and natural satellites. On Europa, Colonel Andy Martinez monitored the alien scouts from the concealed command center, buried beneath kilometers of ice. The moon's surface appeared normal, but beneath the frozen crust lay humanity's most closely guarded secret. The Ghost Fleet waited in vast hangar bays carved from the moon's rocky core, thousands of automated warships that could operate without human crews. "They are getting close," reported Lieutenant Sophia Cruz. "Should we activate jamming protocols?" "Not yet," Martinez replied. "Let them probe. Let them wonder. When the time comes for revelation, we want their surprise to be complete." The alien scouts completed their investigation and returned to the main fleet, their reports filled with confusion and uncertainty. They had detected signs of massive artificial structures but could not locate them visually. It was as if the humans possessed technology that could hide entire fleets and industrial complexes. Commander Zalthak reviewed the scout reports with growing unease. The energy readings, the gravitational anomalies, the complete absence of visible military assets despite clear signs of advanced technology. Something was very wrong with this picture. "Prepare the fleet for possible deception protocols," he ordered. "The humans may be using advanced concealment technology. All ships maintain battle readiness." The massive alien armada moved deeper into the Sol system, unaware that they were walking into the most sophisticated military trap ever devised. Human observation posts tracked their every movement. Human weapon systems locked onto their positions, and human commanders prepared to spring a surprise that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The aliens had expected to find a primitive species cowering behind warning buoys. Instead, they had stumbled into the domain of apex predators who had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. The moment Commander Zalthak had been dreading finally arrived as his fleet reached the densest part of the asteroid belt. His sensors had been detecting unusual readings for hours, but nothing had prepared him for what happened next. The asteroids around his fleet began to move. At first it was subtle, just a slight shift in position that could have been natural gravitational effects. Then the movement became more pronounced, and Zalthak realized with growing horror that the asteroids were arranging themselves into a defensive formation around his fleet. What he had assumed were natural space rocks were revealing themselves as artificial constructs of enormous size and power. "All ships, emergency protocols," Zalthak shouted into his communications array. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. The artificial asteroids opened fire simultaneously, and space erupted in a display of destructive power that defied comprehension. Concentrated plasma beams lanced out from hidden weapon ports, each one carrying enough energy to boil away entire sections of hull armor. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to tremendous velocities smashed into alien shields, overloading defensive systems that had never faced such concentrated firepower. On Ceres Station, General Mike Torres coordinated the assault from the command center buried deep within the dwarf planet's core. Around him, dozens of officers managed weapon systems that had been built into the asteroid over the course of 2 centuries. The entire surface of Ceres was studded with concealed weapon emplacements, turning the largest asteroid in the belt into a fortress of unimaginable destructive capability. Target their command ships first, Torres ordered, his voice calm despite the magnitude of the battle unfolding around them. Focus fire on the largest vessels. Disable their ability to coordinate. Chief Warrant Officer Helen Roberts managed the massive railgun systems embedded throughout Ceres. The weapons used magnetic acceleration to fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, turning simple chunks of metal into planet-killing weapons. Direct hit on their flagship's port side, she reported. They are venting atmosphere and debris. The Eternal Dominion shuddered under the impact, its mighty hull cracking like an eggshell. Commander Zalthok was thrown from his feet as his bridge erupted in sparks and emergency lighting. Half of his crew lay dead or dying, and damage reports flooded in from every section of the ship. Return fire, he roared, pulling himself upright. All weapons target the nearest asteroid. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had, their energy weapons and missile systems unleashing destruction that could have sterilized entire worlds. The artificial asteroids absorbed the punishment with casual indifference, their hull armor designed to withstand impacts that would crack planets. Hidden shields flickered to life, deflecting energy beams back into space. But the true horror was yet to come. From every direction, human ships began decloaking and joining the battle. Sleek destroyers materialized out of empty space, their stealth systems shutting down to reveal vessels of deadly beauty. Larger cruisers appeared near the gas giants, their hulls gleaming with weapon ports that had never been seen by alien eyes. Captain Sam Russell aboard the USS Defiance finally broke radio silence, his voice carrying across all frequencies used by the alien fleet. Alien fleet, this is the Terran Defense Force. You were warned. You chose to ignore that warning. Surrender now or be destroyed. The response was immediate and predictable. The aliens had not conquered half the galaxy by surrendering to inferior species. They turned their weapons on the newly revealed human ships, expecting to crush this upstart race with overwhelming firepower. They discovered that human ships were not built like anything else in the galaxy. Where alien vessels relied on thick armor and powerful shields, human ships used speed, stealth, and devastating offensive capability. The destroyers danced between alien formations, their weapons carving through enemy hulls with surgical precision. The cruisers hung back and delivered long-range fire that could penetrate any known defensive system. Admiral Velkarn of the Hegemony watched in disbelief as his personal escort was destroyed by a single human vessel, barely 1/10 its size. The enemy ship moved with impossible grace, avoiding return fire while systematically dismantling his fleet's heavy units. What kind of weapons are they using? He demanded. His science officer, one of the few still alive on the bridge, checked his instruments with shaking appendages. Sir, their energy weapons appear to be using some form of exotic matter manipulation. Their kinetic weapons are accelerating projectiles beyond anything we thought possible. Our defensive systems were not designed to handle this level of technological sophistication. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The alien fleet had been designed to fight other alien fleets using conventional tactics and familiar technology. They were not prepared to face an enemy that had spent 3 centuries developing weapons and strategies specifically designed to counter their every advantage. Human ships appeared from concealment positions throughout the system. Jupiter's moons revealed themselves as massive shipyards and fleet bases. Saturn's rings began moving, exposing a defensive grid of automated weapons platforms that covered the entire outer system. Even the sun itself seemed to participate as solar collectors hidden in the corona powered up and began transmitting energy to weapon systems throughout the system. Commander. Zalthok realized that his fleet was not just outnumbered, but completely outmatched. Every advantage the Galactic Council had assumed they possessed was proving to be an illusion. Human technology was not primitive but incredibly advanced. Human tactics were not desperate but carefully planned. Human forces were not few but overwhelming. Signal general retreat, he ordered, knowing that few of his ships would survive to carry out the command. But even retreat was denied to them. Human ships had positioned themselves to cut off every escape route. The alien fleet found itself trapped in a carefully constructed killing field, with Earth's defenders controlling every angle of approach and withdrawal. From hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt, additional human vessels continued to emerge. Each one was a masterpiece of military engineering, incorporating technology that alien science could barely comprehend. Some ships appeared to manipulate gravity itself, crushing enemy vessels without firing a shot. Others used weapons that ignored conventional defenses entirely, their exotic energy beams passing through shields as if they did not exist. The artificial asteroids continued their methodical destruction of the alien capital ships. Each weapons platform contained enough firepower to level continents, and they used that power with ruthless efficiency. The largest alien vessels, ships that had served as symbols of their species' military might, were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas and twisted metal. General Torres watched the battle unfold from his command center on Ceres, his expression grim but satisfied. They wanted to see what humanity was capable of, he said to his staff. Now they know. The first phase of humanity's response was complete. The alien fleet was broken, scattered, and largely destroyed, but this was only the beginning. The real demonstration of human capability was yet to come, and when it arrived, the galaxy would understand why Earth had posted warning signs around their territory. The survivors of the alien fleet huddled in their damaged ships, unable to retreat, unable to advance, and unable to comprehend how their mighty armada had been reduced to scrap metal by a species they had dismissed as primitive. They were about to learn that the warnings had been posted not to protect humanity, but to protect them. The battle was over in less than 6 hours from first contact to final ceasefire. Of the 2,000 alien vessels that had entered human space with such confidence, fewer than 50 remained operational. Those survivors drifted helplessly in space, their crews traumatized, and their ships bearing the scars of humanity's overwhelming technological superiority. Commander Zalthok sat in the ruins of his bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his crew and the wreckage of systems that had never failed him before. The Eternal Dominion was a broken shell, held together by emergency force fields and powered by backup systems that could fail at any moment. Through the shattered viewport he could see the human dreadnought Vengeance holding position nearby, its weapons trained on his ship but no longer firing. Admiral Hayes opened a final communication channel to the surviving alien commanders. His image appeared on screens throughout the scattered remnants of the Galactic Fleet, his expression showing no triumph or cruelty, only the weariness of someone who had hoped this day would never come. "You will return to the Galactic Council," Hayes declared, his voice carrying across space to every alien survivor. "You will tell them exactly what you found here. You will show them the recordings your ships have made. You will make them understand that humanity has been preparing for galactic war for 3 centuries. The Admiral paused, allowing his words to sink in before continuing. "Our warning was not a request for protection. It was a mercy we extended to protect you from us. We could have expanded and conquered decades ago, but we chose isolation. That choice has protected you, not us." Dr. Rachel Adams stepped forward, her scientific instruments having recorded every detail of the alien fleet's capabilities during the brief battle. "We now possess complete technical specifications for every ship class, weapon system, and defensive technology you brought against us," she announced. "This information will be shared with our military planners to ensure that future conflicts are even more one-sided." The implications of her statement sent chills through every alien survivor. Not only had humanity defeated them decisively, but they had used the battle as an opportunity to gather intelligence that would make them even more dangerous in future encounters. Lieutenant Sophia Cruz monitored the Ghost Fleet as the automated vessels began the systematic collection of battlefield debris. Every piece of alien technology, every fragment of hull armor, every disabled weapon system was being gathered for analysis. Humanity would learn everything there was to know about galactic military capabilities, while their own secrets remained hidden. The broken alien fleet began its long journey back toward galactic core, their ships barely capable of maintaining life support, much less combat operations. As they limped away from the Sol system, they carried with them recordings and data that would fundamentally change the balance of power in the galaxy. The first ship to reach a galactic communication relay transmitted a priority message to the council chambers on Centauri Prime. The message was brief but devastating in its implications. Fleet destroyed. Humans not primitive. Technology beyond our understanding. Recommend immediate cessation of all hostile activities toward Terran space. The message spread throughout galactic civilization with unprecedented speed. Within days, every major power, every minor colony, every trading post and military installation had received copies of the surviving ship's sensor recordings. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the most powerful military force ever assembled was systematically destroyed by a species they had dismissed as insignificant. On Earth, President Lisa Carter addressed her planet in a historic broadcast that would be remembered for centuries. Standing beside her in the underground command center were the military leaders who had orchestrated humanity's victory. Admiral Hayes wore his dress uniform, the ribbons on his chest representing conflicts that the galaxy had never known about. General Torres bore the insignia of the Planetary Defense Corps, the organization responsible for turning entire worlds into weapons. Colonel Martinez represented the Ghost Fleet Command, the most classified branch of human military forces. The secret is out, President Carter announced to the cameras that would carry her words throughout human space. For 3 centuries we have maintained the fiction that we were weak, isolated, and struggling. The reality is that we have been preparing for the day when someone would test our resolve. She gestured to the tactical displays surrounding them, showing the true extent of human military preparation. Every colony, every space station, every mining operation has been part of our defensive network. Every trade mission, every diplomatic contact, every peaceful gesture has been an intelligence-gathering operation designed to keep us informed of galactic capabilities. The President's expression grew serious as she addressed the future. The galaxy now knows what we are capable of when threatened. We hope this knowledge will prevent future conflicts, but we will continue our preparations regardless. Human space remains off limits to alien forces. Our warning stands unchanged. In the depths of space, construction began immediately on even larger vessels, more sophisticated weapon systems, and defensive installations that would make the Sol system's defenses seem primitive by comparison. The demonstration had served its purpose, but humanity was taking no chances that the lesson would be forgotten. New star charts were distributed throughout human space, showing previously classified colonies and bases that could now be acknowledged. The true scope of human expansion was revealed to be far greater than any alien intelligence service had suspected. Over 100 worlds now flew the flag of Earth, connected by communication networks and supply lines that had operated in complete secrecy for generations. Commander Jake Morrison finally returned to Earth after decades of diplomatic service. His mission of peaceful contact officially ended. He stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Earth, watching the planet that had somehow managed to keep the galaxy safe from itself for 3 centuries. The final message was transmitted from Sol system to every corner of galactic space, broadcast on all frequencies and repeated in every known alien language. This is Terra Command. Our warning stands. Human space remains off limits. We have shown mercy once. There will not be a second demonstration. The surviving alien ships finally reached their home ports, carrying with them the most important intelligence reports in galactic history. The analysis of their sensor recordings would occupy alien scientists for years, but the conclusions were already clear. Humanity possessed technology that bordered on the impossible, military forces that dwarfed anything the galaxy could assemble, and most terrifyingly, the restraint to use that power only when absolutely necessary. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the implications of humanity's revelation. Ambassador Kethavar, his crystalline features dulled by shock, addressed the assembled delegates with words that would reshape galactic politics forever. We ignored the warning, he said simply. We learned too late that some doors should never be opened, and some sleeping giants should never be awakened. Humanity is not our equal. They are our superior in every way that matters. Our only choice now is to hope they continue to show the mercy they have demonstrated today. The galaxy had learned the truth about humanity, but it was a truth that brought no comfort. In trying to remove what they saw as an obstacle to galactic expansion, they had awakened a power that could reshape the very foundations of their civilization. The warning signs had been posted in mercy, and that mercy had been repaid with aggression. Now humanity stood revealed as the apex predator it had always been, and the galaxy would never be the same again.